every country can drive you nuts. I mean, the UK drives me nuts sometimes, but the one thing I would say about Asia, and particularly China, is that I've never been bored here.
Before we start, could you just give us a quick introduction on who you are, why you came here, what's your background, what you're doing here?
Sure, I'm originally from England. I've been in China for 8 years. I'm 43, single, and I originally came here working with a consulting firm that I was working with in Hong Kong. And really wanted to come up to the mainland because they felt a lot was happening here, it was developing, and took a sabbatical to study Chinese. And then started working here and never intended to be here perhaps as long as I have been, but...
How long has that been now?
In a total of probably 8 years from when I came here to study. I grew up in the UK for most of my life, but I also lived in Africa for 6 years. And I think that sense of travel, sense of wanting to explore places has always been a big part of what I am. Latterly, as you get older, you understand yourself better, you start to appreciate that more and more, you start to realise that's a big part of what you're about.
How would you describe that, let's say, in 3 sentences, being an expatriate in Beijing?
Diverse, sometimes frustrating, but I would say overall a pretty rewarding experience. I mean, I think the first thing is, and this is getting less and less, is language. If you don't speak the language, your experience living here is a little bit different. And it's not saying you can't live here if you don't speak the language, but it really does help. Probably looking at it through the sort of prism of the language is one of the best ways of looking at Beijing. I found my experience learning Chinese extremely frustrating, and any of my Chinese teachers will tell you that. But on the other hand, when you actually make breakthroughs with the language, it's probably doubly rewarding, because to be able to break through and talk to, for example, a taxi driver and get his views on what the country is about, it gives you an insight that is completely different to what you would normally think. That's just a small, like a micro example of everything else that happens here, I think. Everything is so much harder, but when you make breakthroughs, it can be so much more satisfying.
What struck you most about Beijing when you arrived here?
I don't really know why, but I just loved the city from when I first got here. It was just so different, I think. And it's not as different now, but I remember I used to come up and have meetings, and we'd go to these huge state-owned enterprise buildings, which, you know, freezing cold, and 1960s buildings, and they'd be sitting there with badly fitting suits on, and from back in the day. Whereas now it still is, but it's like sort of state-owned China 3.0 or whatever you want to call it. You know, that it's no longer this slightly dreary building that you're visiting. It's this big steel and glass palace. Chinese people really wanted to understand how the West had become successful, I think. China wanted to get there as well. So they wanted to suck every bit of information they could out of you. You know, now China holds many of the cards economically. There's a sort of renewed confidence / arrogance to the way Chinese people are.
Did you experience something like a culture shock experience?
I didn't really. I mean, I've been in Hong Kong. I've also travelled a lot and lived in lots of places. So, yeah, it's different. But I wouldn't say it was a shock. It was just a cultural difference, and you just adapt to it.
What would you say is what you like best, and also what you like least about being an expatriate in Beijing?
The diversity of the people in Beijing. And I think this is perhaps something that's unique to Beijing, in that a lot of people are here because they want to be in China. Whereas I think you take Shanghai or Hong Kong perhaps, and people are sent there or they go there because of the economic opportunity, particularly Hong Kong. Whereas here there's a whole diverse range of people who are here for lots of different reasons.
So that's what you like best about
and
living in Beijing?
The fact that my friends are from all over the world, including China.
And what is it you like least?
Pollution.
Pollution. Your answer. And are there any moments when you miss home?
Not really, no. I mean, what would I miss about home? watching Premier League football, I can go and watch it on the TV here. Having English food in an English pub with English beer, I can go and do that here. Do I miss the weather in England? No. I guess you sometimes miss the simplicity of it. You know, I buy a car, I own a car, there's not some complicated rule about I can't drive it because the plate number's wrong on a certain day, or just all the strange rules here. I don't miss the UK when I'm here, but what I think it's made me do is appreciate it when I'm back there. So sometimes I walk around London and I'm thinking, you know, yeah, this is where I'm from, and you know, it's not a bad place.
Watch the entire interview on whatsitlike.tv. Our interviewee shares personal experience about all aspects of living abroad. For example, what's it like to integrate and make friends? What's it like at work and in business? What's it like to live in the city? What's it like to bring a partner and kids? We have prepared for you hundreds of candid, real-life accounts of expatriates who are actually there. It is almost as if you call them directly. See you on whatsitlike.tv and get all your answers before you move.